Hey guys, Greg here, Bone Tactical, episode 2 of the Land Cruiser build, behind the scenes in the shop, and today we're going to discuss the rebuild of this old worn 9000 winch. So discussing this particular winch, it's an old winch I've had for years, probably 10 years old, maybe older. And what we had to do was we had to rebuild it. We pulled everything apart, we cleaned it, we cleaned the electronic and interior components either with alcohol, acetone, or electronic component cleaner. We re-greased everything. The electronics components, we put some dielectric grease on there. And basically we cleaned up everything, sanded everything. There's a little bit more I still have to do because I changed the cable from metal to a synthetic cable, and my goodness, that helped tremendously with the weight reduction. So now it's much lighter, and that's kind of the theme that we're going for. We did finish this build once before, and took it on a test run out into the jungles and all across Central America. But one of the things I realized was that it was heavier than I wanted it to be. So we're doing a big theme of weight reduction here. That helped a lot. Sanded this, sandblasted it, and then painted it with some powder coat. Since we do powder coat here for the knives, thought that it would be cool, and it is cool. From there, when we put everything back together, we sealed it with silicone because there was a good amount of mud inside of the winch, and the actual solenoid for the winch just was destroyed. So I put a DC contactor pack on there and kind of just rigged it up. And from here, now what we have is a DC contactor instead of the worn solenoid. This is an aftermarket DC contactor I just got off Amazon. And that's basically the gist of how we're running the winch. Rebuilt it, and in place of solenoid, DC contactor. From there, we ran a big cable, very heavy-duty cable to the accessory battery because the other winch is on the primary battery. This winch is on the accessory battery. Winches have a ton of power draw, so you need to run a really big cable. And a lot of people don't realize we have winch front and back on this vehicle. On a front and back vehicle winch setup, when you have a rear winch, it's so far from the battery that you really need a big cable. You need an even bigger cable in that circumstance. So we've got a really heavy cable on there, and then whenever you're running power, you want to make sure that you're well grounded. That's kind of the gist here of the winch system. I do like having a rear winch because it's often very helpful in situations of pulling yourself out of something that you never should have went into, especially if you're by yourself. Front winch oftentimes is great for pulling yourself through an obstacle if it's something you think you can get through, or for helping pull somebody else out. But if you're by yourself on the trail, and you guys have seen when we were in La Mosquitia, Honduras, out way into the jungles of the eastern part of the country, and there's nothing out there, no power, no electricity, no other vehicles, just canoes and swampland. It's the largest expanse of virgin rainforest after the Amazon, okay? And we were just out there, just us. There was a couple river crossings that I tried to do that I shouldn't have done, and the videos are here on YouTube, where I had to pull myself out with the rear winch. And if it wasn't for that rear winch, I might have lost my truck completely to the river. There was one river in particular that I did cross, and a guy in a Hilux saw me crossing, and he thought he could cross it. And he went to cross, sucked water into his turbo, and actually lost his truck. His truck got washed down the river. Very unfortunate situation, but it happens, you know, and you got to really be careful. And that's why I recommend having 2 winches if at all possible. In order to make this winch possible, we extended the chassis about 12 inches and built this plate here to specifically add this winch, and then built the rest of the whole system that we're working on, and you'll see in future episodes all around this chassis extension. Thanks for watching. Bone out.